Now when it came to what do we do, it's quite clear that we are all different. And therefore, like we said, we do not have a project to say go do this, that. We have a program that really should guide us to reflect on what our problems are. We have to use a right-based approach. And essentially, what you have all agreed and said in different ways is that you all have to go back to your different countries, because when it comes to BEAP, it's very much dictated by the specificity or specificities of the different countries. So therefore, we are agreed. And just to throw some light on how we had proceeded until now, this meeting was one of creating a platform to think together. From yesterday we said we are thinking together. And we looked at different scenarios. We looked at what the curriculum is like and what we can do about it. We looked at the issues of teachers. We looked at the issues of why kids are failing, the assessment with all its biases. Principally, we had put before you the idea that if we continue with primary education, we would not have enough time to prepare the children to whatever opportunities there are. If we keep at primary, we expose over 50% of our young people at an early stage, even before they are ready for work. And if we do, we go against a convention that we've all signed. The minimum age for labor is 15 years. If you go by six years of primary school, they live by 12. And most of the time, we do more harm than good, especially if we target the hard-to-reach, the rural population. They are neither here nor there. They cannot go back to the field, and then they choose all of these deviant behaviors. It costs us much, and much more. When you look at investment, you wonder whether what we are doing is actually benefiting us, and there is the donor fatigue. So what do? We have to go back. If you have to develop law, you really must really ensure that you have the evidence. What's the basis upon which you develop a legal framework? And what we had always advocated for, once we have signaled what the problems are, we allow each member state to go back. There is need to gather the evidence. I agree with those who said, oh, you need to do the communication. For those countries that already have a legal framework of 8, 9, 10 years, you don't have to develop a legal framework. But like some of you argue, you may have a legal framework that's not implemented. So how do you implement the legal framework? Yes, you want to guarantee 9 years. I bet you, if I were to invite each one of the countries here present, you all would talk about you want all your children to go to school. But how many of us are implementing that? Very few. We all have it in our constitutions. So if you have a legal framework, let's go back to the letter of the law and begin to question how we move from what we say we want to do, statement of intent, to actually implementing it. We had a box, we opened the box, we said we should all jump out of the box. And unless we truly jump out of the box, we'll go back to the question of examination. Not that we shouldn't have examination, but we are saying if you have examination at the end of 6 years, you are really going to have a situation where you select. And we agreed we don't want an examination for the purposes of selection. We want an examination that would inform learning, to improve quality, to help the teacher teach better and the student learn better. And therefore, we must go back to the issue of examination. Examination, the minimum that it would cost is 2 to 3% of your budget. 2 to 3% of your budget only to destroy your children. How many in this room would like your kid to be kicked out of school at the age of 12? There is nobody. Therefore, if nobody agrees that their child should be outside, whose child should it be? That is my question. So it's very easy to point a finger at our colonial masters to say they did this. They did that, but what's the justification for you to continue? That is the question. So how do you approach this situation? Is it progressively have a legal framework and then start looking at the curriculum? Or do you have the curriculum and then start looking at the teachers? And then once you have the curriculum and teachers, you're now looking at the assessment. We need to strategize. And I think the two gentlemen on my left and my right seem to have really provided a very good conclusion to the debate. We are all different. We all have different needs, and we must go back to our various countries and start from there. Wherever you are at, that's where we really should move from. And I would want to say, at this point in time, is a decisive moment. We brought together 8, 9 countries. We have discussed. We've all shared our points of views. What next? How many of you would really like to be accompanied to go down to the next level, where we really engage with stakeholders, we really table the issues based on the evidence we would really have gathered? We really need to go back and look at our analysis of our education system, get a conversation going with all the different players and parties concerned, not leaving out the partners. I think it was mentioned. Within the UN, beyond the UN, we need to have a real good conversation. I think we are all like in the business of fooling ourselves if we want to go away and continue business as usual. The system, if there is one, is not serving the purpose of the continent. On this continent, you have all the worst of everything. You have a situation of all those who are not doing well. You have a situation of all those who are poor. You have a situation of all those who are in conflict. And when would it end? And I think this is the moment. There is no change that is easy. But indeed, it is possible. If we can accept that we need change. But how we must do it, we must get back to the country level. And so what is UNESCO ready to offer? UNESCO is ready to accompany member states, ask us when they are ready, to really say, we want to work with you in this way or in that way. We have agreed there are different entry points, and already there are lots of different initiatives. There is the initiative on TISA. If indeed you have all the legal framework in place, but you have difficulties with issues of teachers, let's talk about teachers if that's where you want to come in. We have a situation where on this continent there is an institute for capacity building, and the institute is focused on looking at issues of teacher development. We have also with us, we had a presentation of another institute that is looking at curriculum development. If curriculum is where you want to come in, let's get the conversation going. We had discussed at length yesterday that we should not focus only on formal system. And indeed, I agree also. What do we need to do? Also, UNESCO has with us an Institute for Lifelong Learning. So we have capacities where we can sit with you and discuss. But if development must work, if we're really working towards a situation where we do not really give you fish, but we work together on making sure you learn how to fish, you have to approach, write to us, express your interest, give us your expression of interest on where you want us to really work with you, and we are ready to move in that direction. So in brief, BEAP is not a situation that's calling for a reform for the sake of it. BEAP is a situation, it's a tool that helps us to really think together at a country level to identify where our entry point should be. We've got a number of countries that have started looking at this approach. There was a submission that said, oh, let's first wait until we get to hear about the impact. But impact is not something that comes overnight, something that started 1-2 years ago. You cannot talk about impact, but it's a process. It's a process that engages educators and non-educators alike. It's a process that really puts children first, and it's a process that looks beyond access. We have to move beyond access to success if really we must tackle the issue of development on